So welcome back to We Talk Boxing, and today I'm going to be talking about Don Charles and his latest interview with Box Nation. Now, in this interview, which was a very, very, very excellent interview, by the way, by Don Charles and Box Nation, Don Charles goes very in depth into the whole situation in regards to the fight between Daniel Dubois and Anthony Joshua. Now, I will leave a link in the description, so if anyone wants to watch it, but I have to pre-warn you that it's 45 minutes long, so it's not a quick interview, but for me, I found it very, very fascinating because Don Charles goes in depth and gives us his thoughts and his review as well about the fight. Obviously, there's things that happened before the fight. The trainer, Ben Davison, Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, the referee, Derek Chisora and Anthony Joshua and more as well. So it goes really in depth, and you know what I mean. This was a big thing for Dom because he got quite what's the word? He got very not emotional, but you could see that he wanted to let a lot off his chest when he was doing this interview because a lot of things I'm guessing had been building up over the years, and obviously things that have happened during the camp, etc. Now, for me, the mindset was one of the things that Don Charles talked about, and how when the fight got announced between Daniel Dubois and Anthony Joshua, one of the first things that he wanted to instill in a Triple D, Daniel Dubois, was getting his mindset right and installing discipline from the get-go. And he said that they would rehearse this and go through it on a day-to-day basis. And obviously, when he was sparring with his sparring partners, he would always say to Daniel, "I want you to own the ring. I want you to show me what you could do. I want you to pretend that this opponent over there, the sparring partner, is Anthony Joshua. I want you to go in there and I want you to dominate from the start." And this is very, very, very like brilliant information that he shared with us because that's exactly what Daniel Dubois did in the fight. He took the fight to Anthony Joshua from round one. He didn't give Anthony Joshua any time to breathe. He put it on him. He stuck it on him, and obviously Anthony Joshua didn't know how to react. And all this comes from the confidence that Don Charles has installed in Daniel Dubois. And what he said to Daniel, he didn't want to win by decision because he wasn't confident that they would get the decision. And what he said to Daniel was in camp that for you to win by decision, you would have to beat Anthony Joshua from pillar to pillar and knock him down multiple times to get the decision. To get a decision victory. And that is pretty much what happened in round one to round five. Obviously, Daniel Dubois came out and absolutely battered Anthony Joshua all over the ring for 5 rounds. And if the fight had went to 12 rounds, obviously we don't know what would have happened from after round five. But the way the fight was going, if the fight had lasted the 12 rounds, I would have said Daniel Dubois probably would have won it because he knocked AJ down a numerous amount of times in all of the rounds and hurt him and knocked him out in the end. So yeah, brilliant stuff from Don Charles, and he said that their game plan was to win by KO, and Daniel went out there and implemented it. Another thing, obviously, Don Charles talked about was a lot of the false information which was provided to Team AJ, and obviously, and in regards to a lot of the so-called experts in regards to how the fight was going to go on and how Daniel was going to get knocked out, etc., etc., and that all Anthony Joshua needs to do is hit Daniel Dubois in the chin. Well, Don Charles said pretty much they had it right, but it's the case that Anthony would have had to have hit Daniel Dubois in the chin, which he landed a couple of shots, but just wasn't enough, and he didn't catch him flush on, because obviously what he said was Team AJ installed that false confidence in AJ, saying that all you got to do is hit him on the chin because Hrgovic did it But obviously Hrgović is a different beast. Hrgović stood toe to toe with Daniel Dubois and was prepared to let his hands go and take punches from Daniel Dubois as well. And that's the difference between AJ and Hrgović. Obviously, they wasn't able to do this similar sort of game plan, and that obviously they generally felt that the victory was going to be easy. And he said that Ben Davison didn't prepare his fighter in the correct way and didn't give him a good game plan. And I fully believe what Don Charles said in that interview. So that was, you know what I mean, it's very brilliant to hear that from Don Charles, because obviously straight away post press conference, can't get my words out. Obviously Ben Davison did put out a statement, but he didn't go deep into what their game plan was, what their tactics was. But Don Charles pretty much hit the nail on the head in his interview. Now, another thing Don Charles alluded to in his interview, and this had been building up over the years between Derek Chisora, AJ and Don Charles. Now, he goes in really deep and he talks about how Derek Chisora and AJ over the years have kind of showed him a lot of disrespect, and that, you know what I mean, he felt quite aggrieved how they kind of treated him, and that he pretty much doesn't wish any sort of badness to him, but you could see and hear in his voice that he was quite angered. And he also mentioned as well other high-profile boxers went to him before the fight and said that your fighter, Daniel Dubois, was going to get seriously badly hurt and that he was going to end up in hospital. Now, that was very interesting to hear that, because you don't really want ex-fighters coming up to you and saying stuff like that, because it's going to be putting negative thoughts in his head. Now, from Don Charles, he's very strong-minded, and obviously he didn't listen to that information, but he was very angry from what he heard from this professional ex-fighter. But obviously he didn't name who it was. He was just good to hear the sort of things that were said to Don Charles, you know what I mean, before the fight. And obviously since the fight, I'm guessing these people have obviously ate a bit of humble slice of cake sort of thing. So that was quite interesting to hear from Don Charles as well. Now, he also talked about Eddie Hearn, and that how he and his team, his promotion team, pretty much underestimated Daniel Dubois, because they generally didn't feel that they were going to be fighting Daniel Dubois. They generally felt as if they were going to be fighting Filip Hrgović. But obviously Daniel Dubois upset the apple cart there. He also talked about how not a lot of people, included Hearn, etc., didn't feel that Daniel was going to get past Jarrell Miller. But obviously he did that as well. And obviously that Daniel Dubois is the main man now. He's obviously proved all the doubters wrong, and that is pretty much happy with how things are. You know what I mean? He wasn't happy. He said it straight as well in the interview that he wasn't happy how the referee on the night conducted his thing, because obviously he felt that if the roles were reversed and Anthony knocked Daniel Dubois down a few times, that the fight would have been stopped a lot earlier than what it actually was. Because obviously he felt that because of AJ, and you know what I mean, that wasn't meant to be happening to AJ. The referee let things kind of play out a little bit as well. And he also had a little bit of a dig at Ben Davison. He didn't say it indirectly, but you could say you knew he was talking about in the interview, where he's pretty much saying that some of these trainers have been in the game for a few minutes. They don't really know a lot, you know what I mean, like, and that certain trainers have come for him and asked for his thoughts, and they've learnt from him over the years, and that there was one interview as well where he mentions Ben Davison directly, where he says there was an interview, I think it was about 7 weeks prior to the fight, where someone showed him a video of Ben Davison showing disrespect to him and saying that his man, Anthony Joshua, was going to knock out Daniel Dubois quite comfortably, and that they could end the fight whenever they want to. But obviously, he was pretty much just saying that Davison doesn't really know a lot. Obviously, he's been in the game for a small amount of time, and obviously that he hasn't really earned the stripes, and that he's been watching loads of footage over the time. This is uh, yes, over the time, and that he knows a lot in terms of where he's at, and I fully believe that he's a very, very experienced coach. Knows boxing inside out, and he's got a good boxing brain. So has Ben Davison, by the way, but obviously he was just having a little bit of a dig from towards Ben Davison. But I think overall, I don't want to long this video out too much. I think overall it was a very, 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 very good interview, and I personally feel that Don Charles is the best boxing coach, trainer, whatever you want to kind of call it, for Daniel Dubois at this moment in time. And this is mainly because he's got Daniel Dubois thinking differently. He's changed his mindset. He's installed a lot of confidence and belief in himself, because this went out the window pretty much after that first loss to Joe Joyce, and he's changed the way Daniel Dubois is now, and he's made him more of an offensive fighter by making him fight from the start of fights and sticking it on people, taking the fight to them and saying, look, at the end of the day, yes, we're heavyweights, you could hit me, but I'm going to hit you back twice as hard, and let's see who stands tall at the end. So he's changed the mindset and confidence in Daniel Dubois, and I feel as if this could go on for a bit of time, providing Daniel Dubois' team don't act and get rid of and pretty much don't get rid of him, really, because I just felt that during fight week and obviously post fight press conference, Daniel Dubois and his team disrespected Don Charles a little bit. And the reason why I'm going to say that is because in all the interviews that were done, Daniel was pretty much thanking his dad and his family and everyone but Don Charles. So I feel as if something's gone on between them, but it's not come out yet. So I just feel as if I won't be surprised if Don Charles gets sacked from Team Daniel Dubois. And that maybe they're probably looking for another coach. But yeah, I feel as if the best fit at this moment in time is Don Charles. I reckon he's the perfect coach for Daniel Dubois. He's done a lot for him. I'm not saying it's all Don Charles, but I'm saying he's done a lot for him. He's took him from being a fighter where he looked as if his career was done and he had to wait till the big boys had finished, to a fighter who's now on top of the throne. He's one of the main men now in the heavyweight division. And that's what a good, 12, 18 months has done for you, near enough. So, yeah, that's just my thoughts on the interview. Brilliant interview from Don Charles, and I hope that he could continue to work with Daniel Dubois and make him a better fighter in the future. Especially because he's installed that belief and that confidence in Daniel Dubois. And the thing is as well, when you find the right trainer, you know. But that's my thoughts. You guys can let me know your thoughts if you watched the interview, and generally just the whole thing about the whole situation. Are you like me? Do you feel as if Don Charles is the perfect trainer for Daniel Dubois, or do you reckon he should maybe go and get a different sort of trainer? As always, please subscribe and comment. Bless.